concern, and you should find solutions for it, right? Like, that doesn't make you a bad person. I believe in immigration. Me too. Okay, I think that, again, going back to what I was saying about LA. LA is great because of its diversity.
But not illegal immigration.
Right. Like, you have to have control of the border. If you don't have control of the border, you don't have a country. Right? Like, that's just... And by the way, you want to know who said that? In an interview with Vox in 2015, Bernie Sanders. Senator Bernie Sanders said that. He's like, I don't support open borders. You want to know who supports open borders? The Koch brothers. Okay? The corporations that want cheap labor.
Wow.
And I don't know if he would say that same thing today, because when Bernie Sanders came onto the national scene as a presidential candidate, he has a very narrow focus, and that narrow focus is to improve the economic lives of Americans. And he just didn't want to get sucked into or distracted by some of the toxic, divisive culture war stuff. And at that time, BLM was coming up and all of that. And they basically eventually beat him to submission. And his 2020 presidential campaign was different. It was more focused on the culture war stuff, and he's always been principled. He's always had the same policy agenda when it comes to economic stuff. But I realize that you end up disenfranchising or turning a lot of people off when you start treating Americans as groups as opposed to pursuing universal policies that make everyone's lives better. You get what I'm saying?
I absolutely do.
Yeah.
You know who spoke to me on this? For whatever it's worth, was Chris Christie.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of like, I'm building a wall, like Trump speaks in such a way that this never would have happened under me. Well, okay, but explain to me why.
Right,
and
exactly.
what you're going to do about it.
He's so bad. Not to interrupt you.
No.
Trump is, like, he is his own worst enemy. Okay? He gets himself into trouble the way he talks.
I agree.
He says pretty disgusting things.
It's very challenging.
I'm sorry. What it does
It's
is
cringy.
it is a disservice. It is a disservice to himself, because no one's talking about the policies he implemented that were actually good, right? And so, for instance, the whole Remain in Mexico policy, which basically ensured that asylum seekers seek asylum in the first country they arrive to. Okay, in some cases it's Mexico, and so Mexico would have to decide whether or not some of these asylum seekers are actually covered by asylum, can stay in the country.
Right.
Or there was another component of that policy where asylum seekers to America would remain in Mexico until their asylum case is adjudicated by a judge. And Biden came in and repealed that policy. And first of all, the media didn't report on that clearly, so like you'd have to do a lot of digging, as I did, to figure out what Biden did differently from Trump. Because if the media, which I do think has a more liberal bent, were honest about what Biden did, that would mean acknowledge that Trump did something that was actually kind of successful, right?
You are honest, but most sort
People
of
are
aren't.
not. They're politically motivated.
Tough, yeah.
And they will, I think, either lie to themselves or...
Both sides do it, though.
Yeah,
That's
definitely.
why the independent stuff is so important. That's why Young Turks is so important. That's why Rogan's so important. That's why Megan's... That's why all these different outlets with different perspectives, they're not captured.
Right.
They do the work.
Yeah.
That's why I don't watch anything. I watch TV.
Yeah.
I watch YouTube. I watch you. I watch a handful of different journalists that I know I can trust. And wait till I get into this information. I don't even open my mouth until I listen to talk about it anymore, because I find out I'm wrong half the time, which is a separate conversation. But that makes a And Chris Christie had he explained it so well. He's like, we're founded on migrants and different cultures and work ethic, but if we do this in such a way where we take in the best and the brightest and we vet people heavily and we allow them to pay into the system by allowing them to work, and we control the influx. So now they're boosting our infrastructure instead of draining upon it.
Yep.
And I was like, well, why is this so hard? And it seems like it's become a political football.
It is. Like, it goes back to what we were saying when it comes to, gender affirming medicine
Right.
for minors. It becomes
Got
it becomes a problem when
Loktar,
that issue becomes hyper
go
politicized,
forth
and
to
you have
victory.
if the Republicans declare one thing, well, then the Democrats, by
For
definition,
the horde.
must declare the opposite. You know what I'm saying? And I don't think that's the right
Yes.
way to look at
Yes,
any
I got
issue.
it. I got it.
Right? But sometimes conservatives make good points. Sometimes they're right about issues, and that's okay. That doesn't mean
Sometimes Democrats and conservatives are right. It
yes,
happens.
it doesn't mean you subscribe to everything they believe and say. It just means that, hey, I think we can come up with the best solutions if we're just open to different, varying perspectives, find areas of compromise. I mean, that's really the only way to pass legislation that benefits people, right? Where you're willing to actually compromise. I used to be super hard-headed about it. I used to think, no, if it's not a perfect bill that gives us everything we want, we shouldn't subscribe to it.
Right.
And I just think a little more
That's not
pragmatically.
life. Yep.
And I also know that no side has a monopoly on the truth. No side has a monopoly on what's right. I think both sides have some really great points. Both sides have some serious flaws that they refuse to work on because they won't even acknowledge those flaws. And so we keep finding ourselves in this like weird purgatory. That's what it feels like. We're not moving forward at all. And it's because of the way we talk to each other. And I'm just trying really hard, despite all the backlash and hate I'm getting from some people, to just try to find common ground and try to find solutions. And more importantly, try to see each other as fellow Americans before anything else.
The reason you're getting the hate is because you're so successful. Excuse me. And I say that simply because, like, this shows you it's been a hell of a show on audio for a decade. It's crazy. And Bill said, well, we need a bigger audience, and otherwise no one's talking about this. It comes down like medical McCarthyism and some of the stuff we tapped on earlier. Nevertheless, having the conversations that the Matt Walsh is the other side, people are loving it. You know why? And when they do, they'll go after me the way they went after Lex, the way they go after my mom. Yeah, it's great. Yeah, because he tries to really be.
I'm a big fan of the show. And it's because I don't even know what his political views are, to be honest with you. And I just really appreciate the fact that he is willing to invite people from across the political spectrum and let them talk. Just let them, in a long form, show, express like what their views are, how they came to those conclusions, because it's given me a better understanding of the world around me, the people around me, others bring a different view of it, whatever it is. And I just really, really appreciate that. And since he's not combative, people are willing to go on his show. From all walks of life.
Get roasted though. They go after him constantly. They constantly, and he'll go on X and he's like, this is very challenging because everyone's yelling at me and he's like, I'm just trying to, I would notice him go through that for a little while, a year and a half ago, and he'd say, I don't think the world is going to end no matter who gets in office, and everybody went,
yep.
But it's because he's breaking through the noise. It's because you're breaking through the noise. Who gives a shit if they hate you? They hate Joe. He's
Speak
huge.
with
They hate
me.
Megan. She's huge.
Find
they hate
your
Tucker.
center.
He's massive. Like, who's they? You're
Who wish
hearing the
to
people
speak?
that literally get online. I don't even know if they're real.
Ancestors
According
watch
to Kara
over
Swisher,
you.
most of them aren't. Most of it is bots.
Lots of bots, that's true.
And she would know. So I don't even think that's real. And I can tell you that the masses respond. And you see it with Bill.
Yeah.
There's a reason Bill is Bill. I mean, I think he's Bill's kind of like, for a reason. Wow. They're not even cut that out. Anyway, like, there's a reason he's the $30 million man.
Well, I respect him in that he is unafraid to say what he actually thinks, and he does it all the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes he says things that, offend my sensibilities.
Same.
But whatever. I mean, he's his own person, and obviously he's doing something right. He was also one of the first maybe he's like the only other person on the left or in the Democratic Party that was willing to like very vocally call out.
Show the warts.
Yeah, and I really respect that.
And they haven't called him naughty yet. I think the reason is because he hates Paul so much he could be awesome.
He definitely is. Like that's
take a beat up.
that shines through for sure. Yeah.
Much so it's like, but the right is willing. You know, they'll go back at him, but they're willing. He's on Gutfeld. He's on this. He's on that. You can dad cat walls to sit down. It's very difficult to get people to hold up to sit down. Is there less age?
Why do you think that is? Yeah, like I do have like a hard
Impossible.
time.
Did you see Jon Stewart come out and say, "Oh, like, oh, Anna"? Okay.
Jon Stewart having a hard time.
Oh my gosh,
On the left?
where is my phone? Please Google this.
I will.
Jon,
I'll go on your
I
show.
got one for you. He came out and it was everywhere, and he was incapable of bringing left journalists onto his show. They wouldn't even return the calls. Heck, where is my phone?
I'm dying to know about this.
Okay, Jon Stewart calls out NBC and CNN for not allowing reporters on his podcast.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so
There's more to this that I don't know?
I mean, I don't know too much about that story, so I got to read the details. But there's this.
I don't think it's just them though. It's also like the MSNBC. So it's all that CNN, MSNBC, NBC.
They have these exclusivity clauses in their contracts that prevents them from being able to appear on other shows. It's kind of like the non-compete clauses that other employees have in other
He
fields
ain't
of work.
saying that's it. He's saying they're not even returning calls.
Interesting. But why?
Because he's making fun of the DNC and the Republicans at the same time.
Yeah, he does do that, and I love that about him.
So his bill, and somehow Bill manages to pull it off. But he's saying that the minute he'll point out something about the DNC that's hypocritical, he even says, well, he's doing. He's like, well, there goes that booking. Like,
Great. I mean, great. The way I see it is, if you are lying to your audience in order to maintain access to certain people, then you're putting together a pretty crappy show.
right.
You know, I mean, he would have to muzzle himself in order to appeal to people who would be boring as hell on his show anyway. Who wants to hear from ideologues? Ideologues are boring. They're like the most boring, predictable people on the planet. Yet they are like our media's littered with them. Like let's. It's about time we purge some of the ideologues and bring some, actual nuanced thinkers, critical thinkers on.
Well, that's why shows like yours have millions of subscribers, though. I was just talking to Chris, my executive producer, and we have this idea that a documentary that I wanted to take out, and he was like, I'm telling you, it doesn't even matter. TV's dead. Everything's here. This is all that matters. And he started telling me they're running out of money. There's no funding. There's no eyeballs.
No one's watching TV anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Especially not the news. It's dying off because no one trusts it. Speaking of fake news, okay, so, God, this is tough. And I say it's tough because I've actually fallen for it, and I'll give you a few examples. Knowing what's true, knowing what's real. I had really liked Pete Buttigieg for a long time. I was like, the guy's a Marine. He's a Rhodes Scholar. He speaks a million different languages. He's unbelievably eloquent and competent and capable. I guess there was some issues that he had, and I don't know what, but in general, I like him. And there was a picture of him online in this contraption that were like fake.
I saw that.
It's fake.
It is fake, yeah. I know. There's a lot of fake stuff out there. And
it was creepy as hell to me because I thought, get a bottle. This is weird.
yeah,
It's not real. They're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats.
I know. That's okay, so that's where
I told my wife that morning, by the way, I fell asleep, was listening to your show, and you guys broke it down, right? So I woke up, this is the morning of the debate. And I woke up and my wife's a Republican. I said, honey, listen to me. I know you love to get your Twitter fingers going. This is not real.
Yeah.
Don't do it. You look like an ass. Why did you pick Trump?
well, this is the thing. This is the thing.
They're not eating dogs and cats. There's problems.
I don't know if Trump really believes that Haitian migrants are eating dogs and cats, or if he's just doing this sick, like, I don't know. Like, a lot of people think he's doing it on purpose. Like, he knows that it's not true. He's spreading it to spread fear. And, like, I don't know.
They are killing and raping kids and women and taking over apartment buildings. I mean, they're beating up cops. Why can't you go to the stuff that's real?
Well, that's the thing. I mean,
there's real problems with illegal immigration.
What's so frustrating about the way people like Trump talk about immigration is that when real issues arise, and you are not at all in favor of some of the things that Trump has said, it's impossible to bring up the real issues because people are now conditioned to think, oh, you're saying something negative about migrants. Right. So that means you're now a Trumper, that means you're against immigration. No. There is obviously a problem when any community sees a big influx of people and doesn't have the resources to withstand like a huge population increase, right?
That he's coming in, they're chanting death to America. Like, okay.
I just think,
I
just think, yeah. I mean,
Biden, just stay there.
Biden did not have control. Like, he didn't have control of the immigration system. He didn't. Like, there's a loophole. The human smugglers figured out what the loophole was and were able to smuggle more and more people in. I mean, in December alone, 300,000 people came into the country. That's a lot of people. And we don't have enough judges to adjudicate all of these asylum claims. It's been a disaster. And like, what irritates me about the whole situation is Biden neglected it until it became a political liability. Then he calls on Congress to pass legislation. Democrats and Republicans did come together and had a bipartisan, immigration bill. But Trump wanted to run on immigration, so he got the Republicans to squash it, even though Republicans got everything they wanted in that bill.
Did they?
They did,
okay,
yes.
Well, here's the thing. I knew he did that for sure.
Yeah.
And I would have handled it obviously different. If I was him, I would have spun it as, well, thank God they did something. Too little, too late. We still have 15 million people here. How are we going to figure out what to do?
Right.
There's so many, like, we don't have to talk about dogs and cats.
He put,
like, you open yourself up to this.
Yeah, it's so dumb. And he put his political aspirations before what's best for the country. And so, like, we've been pretty critical of the Democratic side, but the reason why I find myself politically homeless is because I look at what Trump's up to, and I look at the way they talk about people, the way, Trump divides people with his rhetoric and his actions.
I know.
The fact that he's so selfish that he put his political career before the best interests of the American people with the immigration bill. All of that stuff really bothers me.
You're right. Me too. That's why I can't. It's so tough because a lot of people watching, they love him.
And it's their right to.
It's their right to. But I see all of these flaws. And
See you
I see
around.
all the flaws on the other side.
Safe travels.
And I kind of just don't understand how why do you go dogs and cats when you've got real?
Yeah.
Why do you not say yes, do it? You can still go after the fact that they let it all go. Why they let it go? Too little, too late. Still a ton of work needs to be done. Like, you still have so much.
Right.
There's so much there. I feel like I can do this for you. I do lunches for a living. Like,
I know.
Why, Mama?
I kind of feel like Trump has kind of... I feel like there's an element of laziness to it, right? It's easier to just demagogue or play dirty tricks to win rather than actually doing, like, strategizing. Because I think you can be an... I know this sounds laughable, but I do genuinely believe you can be an honest politician who puts the country first and still win. So you just have to take the time to strategize. And I'll give you an example. He did lose that debate against Kamala Harris. And it's not because Kamala Harris is like some debating genius. It's because Trump didn't prepare. He underestimated her. He didn't prepare. I mean, a moment that really stood out to me, no one else cared about this moment, but I did because I know what Biden did following Trump. Kamala Harris attacked Trump's tariffs. And Trump just, looked down and looked grumpy and had no, rebuttal. And I was just like, bro, Biden took your tariffs.
He kept them, right?
He not only kept them, he expanded them.
He did?
He expanded them. So Biden doubled down on the tariffs. If Trump had done the work, if he had prepared for the debate, and if he hadn't underestimated his opponent, he would have been prepared with that. And he just wasn't. And that like laziness really bothers me, because it's like, you want to run the country. What do you want to run the country for? For your own benefit, or because you actually want to work on behalf of the American people as their leader, as their public servant?
But even speaking of that debate, is the affidavit even real?
Mm-hmm.
Like, the guy from ABC
Hello.
secretly in the thing, is that even real? You guys said no.
Have a
I haven't
good
seen
one.
any evidence.
See you
And then
around.
Megyn Kelly said, I don't know.
Safe travels.
But this is my point. Like,
See you later.
how
Have a good
do
one.
you guys
See you later.
get to the box?
Safe
now,
travels. Have a
I
good
just
one.
won't even open my mouth
Hey there.
until I go to your channel and wait
For
and
the
see if you
Alliance.
comment on it. And I know you guys
See
will
you
have done
later.
the work on it.
Yeah.
But how are you getting to the truth of? I mean, I have a list of stuff. Oh my God, I fell for this one. The second shooter of the Ralph guy, or the second
yes,
attempted
yes.
shooter.
Yes, the would-be assassin.
The would-be assassin. Okay, it went around that he was in a BlackRock commercial. And I am such an ass. I didn't vet it. There's my bias, because I just thought, well, must be true. Because I happen to think Larry Fink is the devil. So my bias shined through. And my mom, who constantly like this with me, right? And politically. And she's like, just waiting for you to find out that's not true. And I was like, God damn it.
I know.
She thinks everything that isn't CNN is misinformation. How are you getting to the bottom of this?
Well, okay, so with that affidavit
What do we
story,
do?
I think, what is the original source of the information? So that ABC affidavit, like, where did it come from?
Black insurrectionist or something
It came
on
from
Twitter?
some random anonymous Twitter account, and there's no credibility there, right? Like, I'm not just going to believe it. I need some more substance, right? Like, I need to know who this person really is. Were they really employed at ABC? Some anonymous person on Twitter can say anything.
Yep.
And what is actually very scary is that people are just ready and willing to believe what any random Twitter account posts online.
If it suits your ideology, that's why you fall for it.
People are looking for validation and confirmation of what they already believe. They want their preconceived notions to be validated. And
That's why I fell for it.
it's very human, and it's very uncomfortable to accept information contrary to what you already believe. But I think I don't know how we solve this. I don't know if we focus more on critical thinking in schools and
Yep. And it does impact you. When I saw that picture of Pete Buttigieg, it felt weird. And
Yeah.
oh my God, I'd like to think I'm smarter than that. But I thought, oh, that's so bizarre. Like, okay, that's odd. Okay.
well, you're human, and it's the important thing is to learn from those mistakes. And by the way, I mean, I made so many of those mistakes during the pandemic era. I got so many stories wrong, and I felt awful about it, which is why my whole process now is so different.
Tell me about your process.
I, first of all, have really diversified like my sources and my media diet. I would only trust like legacy media and legacy media that was very obviously like left wing. And so I had shut myself off from any reporting from more conservative sources. And when you do that, what happens is there are certain elements or details to a story that you're just gonna miss. Right? And so I hadn't realized that while, you know, the Washington Post, New York Times, they're not necessarily lying in their reporting, but what I noticed was happening is they were omitting certain details to a story that gives you a full picture. And so now, with a more diversified media diet, certain things that aren't being reported by the New York Times is being reported by National Review,
Can I help
right?
you?
So if I read
Have a
both
good one.
sources, I get a
See
more
you around.
holistic
Be careful.
look at
See you
this
around
issue
for the
or the
Alliance.
story.
Good day to
And
you.
also, like,
See you
digging a
around.
little deeper
See you
yourself.
later.
Like, I could either just accept someone else's summary of a court filing, or I can just read the court filing for myself. And read the court filing for yourself, because someone else's summary
Have a
of
good
it
one.
likely is going to
Safe
leave important
travels.
elements
See you
out, or
around.
maybe even be misleading in what the court filing says.
Have a good one.
I realized a lot of that was going on too.
You need
You know, there was a
something?
guy named James Damore.
See you around.
He was employed by Google, and at the time, Google was trying to figure out what can we do to attract more female coders and engineers, because, you know, there's a disparity here and we want more, you know, women working with us. And so he put out like a document that he sent to everyone in the company giving his suggestions, and he looked at some studies and saw like men and women, you know, mentally are a little different. These studies indicate women are more neurotic, so maybe we can change this and that in the company to be more accommodating to, you know, female workers, blah, blah, blah. When you read the whole thing, you can tell he's not coming from a misogynistic, disgusting place. He genuinely wanted to help and thought he was helping. It ended up flattering him, because some of the, you know, female workers who were there thought that he was being misogynistic. The media summary of the document he put out was totally misleading. I read the whole thing and I'm like, look, he might not be correct in analyzing some of these studies, but it's obvious to me he's not coming from an evil or misogynistic place. Like, meet people with a little bit of grace. And so that was my commentary on the show. And there were other people on the panel who hadn't read the entire document, so they just kind of went with what was being reported about it. And they had a totally different perspective, which didn't shock me, it didn't surprise me. And so, to me, it's important to get to the original source. Read the original source material for yourself. And more importantly, this is the most important thing, wait before you react. It's hard. It is hard, because sometimes you'll come across something online that makes you angry, you want to react. But what I've learned to do is just wait. Let this develop a little more, and let's see what's really going on. And whenever you do that, typically the updates to the story paint a much more complicated picture.
Cuomo just said that about Eric Adams. Somebody went after him, I can't recall, but I saw it on X, and I saw Cuomo was like, just, hey, hold on a second. I thought this has got to have something to do with what they did to his brother, that now he's kind of
Hey there.
pushing exactly
See you
what you're
around.
saying. Pause
Yeah.
and let it play out. If it is what they say it is, you can have your feelings about it then, and justice will be done. And if it isn't, and that's not the case, and the guy's innocent until proven guilty, meet the story with some grace.
Right, exactly.
You're fantastic as I have appreciated you to be on your show. Tell
Thank you.
everybody where we can find you all the time.
You can find me over at TYT, The Young Turks. That's the show that I produce and host. So that's youtube.com/The Young Turks.
See you
You
later.
can find me on social
Have a
media
good one.
at Anna Kasparian.
Hope we can continue these conversations.
I would love to, yeah.
I mean, I need you to be my personal political advisor. Oh my gosh.
I really appreciate the conversation. I love what you're doing, and just keep going, because we need more of this.
Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the podcast, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And make sure to let me know what guests you want to see on in the future.
Having confidence that I am safe at home is one of my biggest priorities. With Fast Protect monitoring and life today. But for you, I normally would never do this, but
We can do this
I know you're
tomorrow
in
if you
town.
want.
You look thin.
Yeah,
Yeah, you look great.
I feel good.
What are you doing?
Yeah,
No, what are you doing to like look good, feel good?
working my dead ass off.
You look svelte.
Yeah, I've been working out really
Oh,
hard.
come on.
No,
You must-
seriously.
No, but I mean, I can't be the first one to have noticed this.
Well, I've been,
You look like you lost, I don't know, how many pounds since the last time you were here?
yeah, I might have. I don't remember what I was weighing.
I don't either, or anything about it. But that's because I was stoned. And I know you don't drink, because I do remember you telling me
Hello,
last
friend.
time you
Do
got
not
nice
let
tea
the
right here.
darkness
haven't had a drink
triumph.
since high school. I keep hoping I'll change that, but you know.
How you doing?
You know, Friday is always a tense day, just like any, but, You do every day. I
Right.
don't. So it's like football versus baseball. You know, if you play once a week, you know, you just got to make that game, and then you relive it over the whole weekend. And, you know, whereas baseball, you so you go for 4. You come up, you got tomorrow, and then the next day, and every day.
How many riders do you have?
8, I think. I don't know.